committee of our branch. We welcome you and your team, sir, and we welcome all our regional council members. We welcome our chairman of the ethics committee, CAL Sriram sir, and finally we just welcome our eminent speaker, CA Anand P and Pechi Thangavelu. We welcome you both on this wonderful. That is on behalf of the CPE committee and our branch. Now we just hand over to the CA Sriram sir to it's to welcome about our speakers, sir. Thank you.
Okay, welcome to all the participants, including the organizers and other people. We will introduce the two speakers today very briefly. One is CA Anand, and the other one is CA and a lawyer Pechi. Okay, people are both the speakers need no big introduction. They are well known in the circles, especially in the Chengalpattu district branch, and also people are known in the SARC circles. But however, as a matter of regular, as a protocol, I need to introduce the people. So CA Anand is a partner in Anand and Company in Chennai. He is based in Tambaram. He is a master degree in business administration with international taxation and also ethics specialist. And he is a person with a advanced ITT faculty in Chengalpattu district branch and also in SARC. He has been in practice for more than a decade. He is with corporate taxation audits, bank audits, educational institutions, trust, and he is also in the lot of IT related. He does more of an enthusiastic, and also he is a participant in many of the IT information technology enhancement programs for our branch, and he is one of the pillars in the branch in that sense. Number two, the second speaker I would like to introduce as CA Pechi, and she is essentially again well known in the circle. She is again known in the circle, and maybe some of the thing is like she is also a chartered accountant. She is also a qualified lawyer. She is a first rank holder in her college days. She has been an active participant maybe between 2007 and 2013-15. I think she has been on a sailing on a huge ship, like getting awards, she has been in Deloitte. She was a successful chartered accountant awards received from our past president, Mr. T.N. Manogaran, then Best Paper Awards, High Achievement Awards, Women Awards in Mumbai, Madurai, and Best Paper Awards and other things. But we all know her as a much more enthusiastic participant in our lot of programs, both all our GMCS orientation, blah, blah, whatever is the thing. She is one of our excellent speakers, and makes the place where she is maybe known with her energetic and enthusiastic talks. So I welcome both the people. And both of them are very well knowledgeable in ethics and other things. And we need ethics in the today's environment, because with effect from 1/7/2020, we are in a new ethics setup. So everyone has to equip themselves. We have a lot of issues. So as an ethics committee team, so I welcome both the speakers. So Mr. Anand, maybe it may be both the speakers may be interactive. It may be a little bit of common interactive session also. But anyhow, I would like to hand over the mic to Mr. Anand to start first. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sriram sir and Ivamurthy for a nice introduction and a welcome speech. This new code of ethics, it is the beginning of a new era. And Pechi will start with a vibrant introduction. It will be a more interactive session rather than a single speaker speaking on a subject. So Pechi will continue with their introduction and then will join, and anybody can interrupt in between. It is not just a single CPE meeting which is a speaker is delivering, others are listening. It is a workshop. We have been specifically asked to conduct like a workshop. So any number of interruptions is welcome. And this entire code of ethics, what we are going to cover is just an intro. And if you wanted to learn the new code of ethics, definitely we need a separate workshop to be organized at a place outside our practicing area to be more concentrate on study on this subject. It is more detailed subject to be studied, but we wanted to have intro with HS so to be more live and energetic. So let me hand over the proceedings to Pechi. She will continue from there.
Good morning to one and all present here. Thank you, Anand sir, and we personally, both of us, thanking Sriram sir for the very short and vibrant introduction of both the speakers. Being speaker of this code of ethics, we already spoken in our branch, but we have went to many places and we have been there and we are across many places and addressing the code of ethics. But always when coming to our branch, it is like sharing the thoughts with our family, sitting together in a family and how we are going to chat, like that sort of things we are having in mind. And as well said by Anand sir and even Sriram sir said that if we want to be a very interactive session and we just don't want to just we are going to talk and you guys are going to listen. It's not going to be like that. People will tell the code of ethics, who will listen for that? But this is not going to be like that. This is like workshop. So we want every participant to interact and ask questions on us. Everyone in our family knows that I went to Dubai and came back, and our chairman also shown that in our WhatsApp group. There I got an opportunity to speak on ethics. That time they were been asking us, see, ethics is applicable to the persons who are in India, we are abroad. Is it applicable to us? See, many people, the same way, they are asking that if we are a very small practitioners, with code of ethics and all, it's a very big word which is applicable only to the big firms, big fours, like that, not to us. It's not so. Once our name is entered in our ICI ledger as a member of ICI, then it is applicable to all of us, irrespective of the boundaries where we are. That is the reason many people will clear the CA exam, but they won't register themselves as a member of the ICI. Once they register, whether they are going for employment or they are in practice, simply they are sitting also. This code of ethics is applicable for everyone. There's a separate code of ethics for members in practice, members in employment. In general members also, it is applicable. Since it's a bank audit session, we have many case laws for you, so that it would be very easy to. What we thought that this is a very simple matter. For this also the case is being run. Yes, of course, like that. See, one member who was in employment, but he himself declared that he was into practice, COP, and he accepted for the statutory audit. That has been wrong commitment of accepting the statutory auditor. It has been found, and he has been guilty of other misconduct. He has been like that. So both being in employment, having a COP, and doing the statutory branch audit is not at all a right one. And the same thing, some auditor has issued a certificate for disbursement of loan. He was assisted his clients to get a term loan in favor of his client, issued a false certificate. That is to very vague certificate. So this has been to complete the paper formalities. Just to complete the paper formalities, this has been done, and it has been found, and this man has been held as a guilty of professional misconduct. Like this, so many cases are there, and we are really ethics is a thing that it's not about just learning the things. It's about, this is a quality which everyone should possess. Of course, being an individual, we all have these qualities, but still being a professional, we want it to be very, very ethical way. So this is a new code of ethics has come, and there was a lot of pressure from the NAFRA side So ethics starts with a new era. I request Anand sir to start the live session.
Ethics, start of a new era. Right from 2020, we are a way forward. And the way forward started with a pandemic which disturbed our entire lifestyle. It taught us a different way of practice. It gave an insight how to manage offices in a virtual environment. We have learned to speak in a virtual environment. We have learned to meet in virtual environment and do everything. And in the coming era, we are also going to see virtual offices in the metaverse. Coming to the ethics part, let us understand what this new code of ethics. Previously, the Chartered Accountants Act, the Chartered Accountants Regulations Act, the schedule which gave us the principles of ethics, that still provides. But now we have a two-tier structure. Before going into the two-tier structure, what made us to accept this? Being a member of the International Federation of Accountants, our institute being a member, it accepted the International Ethical Standard Board's code as such. That is what we are seeing as a newly adopted code of ethics. The IESBA has issued the code of ethics for international community that we have adopted. So anybody who have not visited the IFAC website, kindly go and visit the IFAC website. We are also a member, being a member of ICA, we are also a member of IFAC, and indirectly go and visit the website and see the contents in which the IFAC in a global manner is contributing to the profession of accountancy. Coming to the two-tier structure, the first part A, is fundamental principles, independence, and conceptual framework. This is what we have adopted from IESBA. And second part B is law. So this part A and part B has been issued as 2 volumes by the institute, volume 1 and volume 2. There is yet another volume 3 which deals with various cases. The part A is the entire reproduction of IESBA except few modifications which are done to suit our current environment, and this also will be in line, in future will get aligned with the International Code of Ethics. What is two-tier structure? The part A is a principles. It starts with complying with the code, fundamental principles, and conceptual framework. This applies to all professional accountants, and the sections, rather than naming a section, it is as paras from 100 to 199 deal with. And why we should follow this? This is not a law, and you say it is a framework. It has been adopted from the IESBA of the IFAC. What legal sanctity this code of ethics has, that has to be understood. So when we go into Chartered Accountants Act and Chartered Accountants Regulations, which deals with various principles and various things to be followed by Chartered Accountant as a member in practice or service. And it also gives a tremendous amount of power for the council to give directions. And the council in one of his directions has accepted this International Code of Ethics or the ISBS as our own code of ethics, and with a few modifications. That gives the sanctity for the code of ethics 2019 or the 2020 to be followed by all the members of the institute. So when it comes to part 2, it deals with professional accountant in service. So first part deals with professional accountants in common, next in for service, and third part 3 is with respect to professional accountant in public practice. So these three, when you see the importance of which the things are being provided, part 1 is general fundamental principles and framework which applies to everyone. Next comes to professionals in service. So many people who are in service think that the code of ethics doesn't apply to them or applies only to a minimal extent, but this is not so. That is why it has been given importance. Part 2, it is in professional accountant in service, and para 200 to 299 deals with it. And accountants in public practice 300 to 399. And from here there is another part 4, which is divided into part 4A and part 4B. With respect to part 4A, talks about independence for audit and review engagements. So what is independence? What kind of independence a professional accountant should exercise with respect to audit and review engagements? This is an elaborate portion which covers from 400 to 899 paras. This entire code of ethics is a huge volume. Just we are introducing this. Everybody go and read, at least have a glimpse of what the code says. The entire framework structure is like that. The law says this, you have to do this, you should not do like that, it will deal. But when you come to a code which is a framework structure, it doesn't give you any mandate. You have to see to that you adopt the code, you give the frameworks, and it will give self-regulatory mechanism. And anything, if you find that you are deviating from the code, you have to create your own rectification procedures, or you have to review your own behaviors and change accordingly so that it doesn't go out of way of the code. So it is a more self-regulatory mechanism which is inbuilt in this entire framework. And part 4B, it is for independence with respect to other than audit and review engagements. So it is elaborate, it covers all the parts. So to cover the entire thing, again, we need a workshop on a regular basis. I think the ethics committee will take up class to class so that it will be able to cover at least a majority of the classes within a year of time. That will be the agenda for the ethics committee to see to that the new code of ethics framework is being known to all members at large. So now coming to the principles, part A. These are all fundamental principles. This has been taught for us right from the CA days, and everybody will know this. And this is all called as 5 pillars of professional ethics of professional accountants. One is integrity. The second one is objectivity. Third is professional competence and due care. Fourth is confidentiality. Fifth is professional behavior. Each one of us will be covering each of the topic so that it is more lively. So again, I am reiterating. So if you find it any difficulty in understanding certain things, we can deliberate and we can get it clarified, because this is the 5 basic principles. The entire code has been built up. So this is the 5 pillars of the code. So if we know what is exactly these 5 pillars, then following the code is very easy. All other things are self-explanatory and more elaborately dealt with. Why 5 pillars? Why this 5 framework structure? It's not possible to define every situation. So you cannot say law is cannot say, so if this is the situation, you should act like this. If this is the situation, you should act like this. If this is the situation, you should not act like this. All these things cannot be drafted in a law. So that is why if you have a code, which will say broadly say the principles. So if you are deviating from the principles, then you should rectify or you should fall back to the original principles. That is what the meaning of code. So any code, this is why now it is taking more time for the income tax code to be finalized and given. It is easier for you to follow an income tax act, but when it comes to income tax code, then it will be difficult because it is a self-regulatory and more it will be a fundamental principles which you have to follow rather than a specific law which says. Now let us start with the first pillar, integrity. What is integrity? It is being straightforward, honest in all professional and business relationships. This is what it defines. We can lose it here, we can even more precisely say courage to do right thing irrespective of consequences. This is more a vibrant thing. So you should have the courage to do the right thing. Consequences will be different. It may be adverse to you also, but you should have the courage to do the right thing in the right manner. So straightforwardness and honesty is most important part of a professional accountant. That is why the integrity forms the first pillar of professional ethics. When it comes to integrity, what other thing can take charge? Can you elaborate that? What other pillar which is going to be binding on this integrity?
Shall I take it, sir?
Yeah, you can elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Second pillar.
Globally, the ethical requirements for our chartered accountants are based on these 5 fundamental principles. As rightly said by our Anand, integrity, objectivity, professional due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. Of course, these are the 5 pillars. We could say that these pillars are the where our profession stands. Any crack in any pillar, it will have a very big damage. I'm going to talk about objectivity. The fundamental principle of objectivity impose the obligation on all the members to be fair, impartial, and intellectually honest. That is, we should not allow bias, conflict of interest, or undue influence of others to compromise on our judgment. To put it in a very simple word, not to compromise. We should not compromise on our professional or business judgment. That is what all about this objectivity is telling that. Say for an example, we will take a very live case of there is one guy was appointed in a company. After the cooling off period only, he is taking up the audit in the same company where he works. In as per law, it is not that. Yeah, of course, after cooling period only he was going into that company, but lawfully the appointment might be valid, and in fact, it might be he should be very strong enough in his independence. But substance over form, that is very, very important. When coming to the both integrity and objectivity, if will be lost if there is no independence. Earlier it was like independence should be in appearance, but in mind, independence in mind is more than enough in the previous code of ethics. But now this code of ethics is telling that independence in appearance. This individual person might be very strong enough to carry out the audit in a very honest way. But if he is going to audit a company where his wife is a CEO, or where his relative is a close relative is working in a very high position, so the independence in appearance also very, very important. And the same way, just to tell one thing, this when seeing and you can see from the slide that it is not subject relative. When seeing a orange, oh wow, it is an orange. I like this very much. It's a subject oriented, but that objectivity when it comes, how many oranges are there? Are it is good or bad? That needs to be seen very keen way. And one thing to say for objectivity in a single word is, don't make career decision based on whom you like best. It should be very honest and without any influence. We need to give our judgment. That is what this objectivity is pointing out. Next one, Anand sir will take it.
Yeah, when it comes to professional competence in Duke, it's the third pillar. What it says, always apply an appropriate level of professional knowledge, skill, and diligence. Whenever you take up an assignment, whether it's an audit assignment or a non-audit related, when you take it up under your professional banner, it is always your professional competence is being judged and the work has been given to you. So you should see to that you have the appropriate level of knowledge and skill in executing that particular work. And your attitude, your behavior, your skill set, everything should be in a professional manner. And due care should be taken to see to that the work is completed with utmost efficient and in a very, very professional manner. So when it comes to various case laws, you can see n number of case studies which is being decided on this professional competence and due care. Whenever there is a performance, lack of performance, there are negligence cases which has been persons have been booked under negligence or guilty of professional misconduct. This is all. You have to be very careful when it accepting any assignment, whether you are competent enough to complete that assignment. So to have a lighter aspect, being taking up the bank audit being the season, we should see to that the audit is being completed at a time-bound manner, and we should inculcate the skills to complete it in a time-bound manner. In what way we can plan the audit so that the timely completion is being ensured. So this is one pillar which is to be taken more appropriate care. It doesn't mean that all other pillars are a lesser care. 5 pillars are the most things within which we are the entire framework operates. So equal weightage, because whatever the things you build upon these 5 pillars should stand erect. So all the pillars have to take the burden equally. Why I am saying this professional due care, it is a central pillar which is to be have a different focus when it comes to other pillars. And moving to the next, the confidentiality, which we will elaborate this with respect to some few examples. And if anybody is able to give some insight on what is confidentiality, we can have an interactive environment to discuss on confidentiality, though in an unconfidential manner. Okay,
It is being recorded once there, so people will not open up. In case this is going to be in a physical meeting, now we would have got a lot of things.
That is why the reason we have not taken the entire other chapters of this code of ethics.
Might be at the end after closure of recording process and live stream, we can have for 20-30 minutes discussion. That time people might open up. When coming to the confidentiality, you know, that is also very, very important one. Because we are in a position to keep our client information very safe, and we should not disclose to anyone unless otherwise it is required by law. Actually, this place where if we found something, if we found a very, and we want to prove that, see, I went to this place, I have founded this fraud, like that, we want to tell it to someone, right? In that case, uh, we should be very, very careful that even giving the information, we need to keep it ourselves. Without mentioning the name of the client, we can share with our friend or anyone, but even then they might found your client's details. So what happened, you know, even to your near and dear self, ஒருத்தர் போயிட்டு அவர் ஒய்ஃப் கிட்ட நான் பாத்தியா, நான் இன்னைக்கு இந்த கிளைண்ட் கிட்ட போனேன், XYZ, இந்த கிளைண்ட்ல வந்து இந்த ஃப்ராட் நடந்துச்சு, நான் கண்டுபிடிச்சேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது, she is not by intention going to disclose with anyone, but she might be proud to say to the some few people that see, my husband went to such and such company XYZ, and he found the fraud there, and see, this was the thing. Who knows, the same person's relative might be the common friends. So we might be end up with trouble that we might lose our clients, and this is not like that. Even there was one case law that one CA has shared information about the client's fraud to the MC on a voluntary basis. In a public interest. The case has been filed and the disciplinary action has been taken against him, and he is found guilty of professional misconduct, because you should not breach your confidentiality, because whatever the information you are acquiring during your assignment, it is because of the professional and business relationship. When the law asks, you can give, even it is going to be for a right thing, you are not supposed to do. When coming to this confidentiality, we have a very specific clause to this. This part 1 of schedule 2 class 1 very strongly says that disclose information acquired in the course of this professional engagement to any person other than his client, so engaged him without the consent of his client, or otherwise then as required by any law for the time being in force, it is wrong. There was another interesting case that during the income tax assessment, this auditor has shared some very confidential information to the ITO, income tax officer. So this has been one case, and this has been considered to be that whatever you have gathered during your professional engagement without the consent of your client, you should not disclose those things to the ITO. Even there are a few big firms, after getting the power of attorney, whatever the submissions they made, they won't sign it. They ask the client to sign it. The client also will not ask, I have given you the power of attorney, why you are not signing? You have all authority to sign. To safeguard themselves, they need to take. But see, when going for the official areas or something, they easily sign. Until the problem comes, no one is going to safeguard themselves. The client to safeguard themselves, they just blame on us. See, this is they have. I don't know what they have submitted. Might be we have sent it many times, mail, everything. We need to take extra step, and we need to get a signature from them. So this is like we are safeguarding ourselves. So this confidentiality, because I just want to tell you, even the family members doesn't know that how much that person is earning. what are the assets that man has purchased, the wife or their kids, because if they know this, they might spend it lavishly, or the kids will not take the life very serious, they won't study well. So that man has kept the very secret confidentiality, and we are in a position to safeguard that confidentiality unless otherwise it is required by law. We should not disclose any information about our client to even to our close. சும்மா இல்ல நான் ஏதோ அப்படியே டென்ஷன்ல இருந்தேன், போனேன் ஒய்ஃப் கிட்ட உளறி கொட்டிட்டேன், இல்ல என் ஹஸ்பண்ட உளறி கொட்டிட்டேன் அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொன்னோம்னா, it is also not maintaining confidence. So we need to maintain client confidential at all time, irrespective of our personal things. எனக்கு அவங்கள தெரியும், அவர் இது அப்படின்னு கூட we are not supposed to disclose any sort of our client information to anyone, because we are in that position to have a very great things. Even if you go to a doctor and say that one patient is coming and going and he's your friend, sir, அவங்க என் ஃப்ரெண்டு தான், அவருக்கு என்ன அப்படின்னு கேட்டோம்னா, they won't tell any information. They just everything I ஒன்றும் இல்லை, நீங்க உங்களை மட்டும் சொல்லுங்க. So the same way for our clients also, we should not share the information of our clients acquired at any time for even for our mind relax. We are not supposed, it's our head right that we have to keep it in our mind, and we have to keep it very secret. So சிதம்பர ரகசியமா நம்ம எல்லா இன்ஃபர்மேஷனையும் வச்சுக்கணும். That is what in short I can tell it is required. So Anand will continue with the next pillar.
When coming to professional behavior, comply with all laws and regulation and don't act in a way that could discredit the profession. Professional behavior is a wide terminology. We may think that it is confined to some regulatory laws or something which is being enforced as, or some law, say income tax law, so only income tax law is having some regulations on us how to act upon them. It is not like that. So before going into a specific case on this professional behavior, the previous thing, the professional competence and due care, I'd refer one case where, in respect of our Goswami administrator, Delhi Nagarik Secretary Bank Limited was Dayal Singh and Co., which has been reported in page 288, volume 9 of the disciplinary cases. So where a chartered accountant has been guilty of professional misconduct and his name is removed from the register of members for a period of 1 year for not completing his audit work in time. So think, what is the amount of punishments that is being imposed on professionals when such kind of things is, sometimes of this kind of things has been happening. So when you cannot, we are unable to complete in time, so the reasons are not recorded, or the reasons may be numerous, or it may be value.
Anand sir,
yeah.
One small request, sir. Your volume is very low, sir. Can you please increase?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Now it is very audible. Yes.
Yeah, when it comes to work, you cannot say that I have a number of reasons to delay the work, or it has not been completed due to various reasons. So when delay is happening, you should see to that it has been properly communicated, and sufficient safeguards have been taken, or sufficient reminders have been made to see to that the work is being getting completed in time, or you're keeping it informed to the right persons why that there is a delay. If you don't keep that in mind and do the work, then definitely it is going to affect the professional career when it comes to any cases. So when it comes to professional behavior, it doesn't mean any law-based behavior, anything which is being imposed. So there is an interesting case where use of abusive language, a professional accountant used objectionable, deliberate, and abusive language, made irrelevant, incoherent, irresponsible, insane statements, expressions, and all other corresponding with the complaint. So whenever any complaint comes, normally as a human being, we used to react, and that react may become an overreaction, and we may use a language which is, as a profession, we are not supposed to use those language. Then definitely these kind of actions will be taken against us by the regulators. So the professional behavior is one such pillar, and we should see to that it is in principle we follow that. Professional behavior, we should follow it in all respects, in all aspects of our life, not only when we discharge as a profession, but in public forums also. There are a lot of cases where a professional accountant misbehaves in a public forum, not related to his professional work, he's been held professional misconduct. So as a profession, he is considered as a profession, whether he's in the discharge, at the time of discharge of his professional duty or during his personal life. So you should be act as a professional at all times, and this has to be remembered by every member. Professional behavior, which we cannot even for a few seconds or even for a small minuscule thing ignore, that we can behave in a different manner. When it comes to 5 pillars, all these 5 pillars are the conceptual framework in which the entire code of ethics operates is being carried out by these 5 pillars. The entire weight is being, the conceptual framework weight is being loaded onto these 5 pillars. And this is loaded to see to that the independence of the professional accountant is maintained at all respects, at all times, and no compromise is being made on independence. So this professional independence is the one which is the backbone of any professional work. And that is being guarded by the conceptual framework which is being carried by these 5 pillars. So remember, in this diagram we are showing only 4 pillars. It is like our Ashoka Chakra emblem, where you can see the only 3 lions, the 4th lion is behind like. Similarly, we have the 4 pillars seen here, the 5th pillar is behind that. And all the 5 pillars has to be kept in mind. If you keep this 5 conceptual framework, the 5 pillar thing which you mind, the entire conceptual framework which is being running into 1,000 paragraphs. And if you read that book, so it carries so much volume of data that has to be read. All these things are built upon this conceptual framework, entire 5 pillars. So you can understand better all the conceptual framework if you know the inner importance of these 5 fundamental principles of code of ethics. Then we will be able to discharge our professional duty with due independence without compromising on independence. If you have anybody have any doubts in these 5 pillars or the conceptual framework, can raise their question so that we will, before going into the next portion of our presentation, we will be able to have a clarity on the conceptual framework.
As well said by Anand, this 5 pillars are wherever you take any class, no, it will fit into any one of the pillars. So if we have a very deep discussion on this, it would be very useful. Any clarification, please open up and raise your queries. We are happy to answer for it. Hello, sir.
Yeah, shall we move to the next chapter?
Okay, threats.
Threats.
Shall I take it forward?
Yes, yes, Paige.
Yeah, of course. When this thread, when we say the word itself, it is threatening. But I will make sure that this is not going to be very scary for all of us, because don't worry that Anant is going to explain each threat. How can we safeguard ourselves by not affected by this threat? See, there are 5 threads are there that are self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, similarity threat, intimidation threat. So self-interest threat is that what is in it for me, and does this impact my decision making? Is of course, if some undue influence is going to, if you have a very long relationship with a client, the relation that itself give a undue influence on your professional judgment. That is going to be the self-interest threat. And self-review threat is we ourselves will suggest some software to be purchased for the benefit of the client. And if we are going to review the same work which we recommend, means there the self-review thread will come. And this advocacy thread is mainly on tax services when we are going for appearing before the client, before AO on behalf of client, this advocacy thread might come. The same way, familiarity thread is while we are having a very long relationship with the client or the employer, they might thread that, see, if you are not going to adjust with this 1 or 2 decisions, we will take you and we will appoint some new auditors. And this intimidation thread is a very important one, that while we are doing service for the client with the department, when we are going there and arguing for them, and when something goes out of the way, they should not feel that we have taken the things for in our own way. So this intimidation thread is performing of job in a very diligent way. We need to make sure. So each thread is going to be discussed in elaborate with the solutions by Anand. Slide is not moving. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to threats, para which is you can see the entire code of ethics now. It has been, there is an R, means it is a recommendatory thing or which will come. So the prefixes have a separate meaning. You can read what the prefixes mean and what it becomes mandatory, when it becomes. It is like sections which are made mandatory, which are not mandatory like that. But more like when you read the accounting standard, you will be knowing that certain paragraph are mandatory, certain things are for presentation purposes, certain things are examples like that. The code also has a different thing. The professional accountant shall identify threat to compliance with fundamental principles. So when I told that it is a framework, it is the professional accountant for themselves to review what are all the threats they have when they execute the professional accountant, which the 5 fundamental principles get shaped up. So if I say, for example, I am taking up the bank audit. So when I take up the bank audit, I should evaluate what are all the threats that shape the 5 pillars. So integrity, whether what are the factors that is going to affect my integrity when I take up the bank audit. Objectivity, what is going to affect my objectivity, professional skills and due care, what it was, what professional behavior, confidentiality. All these things have to evaluate and see, identify the threat. So that is the foremost principle we have to find out whenever we take up the professional assignment. Once we identify the threat, we should evaluate the threat. So when we are going to evaluate the threat, we should see whether the threat is at an acceptable level. So whether it is at an acceptable level has to be ensured. So you should also see that you should all be aware of that information and changes in facts and circumstances that might impact whether the threat has been eliminated or reduced. So it is a constant process, whether it is at an acceptable level, whether the frequent changes has an impact in elimination or reducing the threat. And this process should be going on so that the threat is evolved on a continuous basis. So when you evaluate, you have to address the threat. What is addressing the threat? So, for example, confidentiality. Let us take that. 5 pillar confidentiality. We have found out that we are supposed to share some information with an outsider. Not precisely, I will take this example so that it is you can understand in the circumstances. So bank audit. I am taking up the bank audit. I have some clarifications. I want some assistance. So I share the information with a third party or somebody else. The information from the bank to get an insight or to get an opinion or to get a way to go about in the particular bank audit. So there is a threat for you to share the information. In what way it is going to affect the confidentiality. When it comes to the banking regulations and the way we acceptance, we are signing a fidelity and secrecy with the banks for conducting the audit. When it comes to the code of ethics, there is a ethic which says you are not supposed to share any information of clients with an outsider. In sharing that information, what is the information you're going to share? What kind of confidentiality is going to be diluted? And by diluting, what is the amount of threat it is you are going to face? You have to check that. If that is not an acceptable level, say you are wanted to analyze a particular client, whether you find out whether that particular client is an NP or not. You are sharing just the information without name or without any reference to any bank, the information to somebody else, and circumstances you are narrating that circumstances and asking them whether that falls under an NP or not. You are not sharing any client's information. You have to evaluate that particular information sharing, how much confidentiality is breached or whether it is an acceptable level. If that it is an acceptable level, then you have to constantly evaluate during the process. That is whether the threat is within the acceptable limit or at any time they exceed. If you think if we exceed the acceptable level, then you should see to that threat is being eliminated, or you are not, you stop sharing the information, or you are discontinuing the professional work. That is the way you have to address the threat. So, addressing the threat, they say the accountant shall do so, eliminating the circumstances. You should eliminate the circumstances, including interest or relationship that are creating the threats. So, if you wanted an information or you wanted an opinion, that relationship you should eliminate. Or you should eliminate the circumstances in which you are going to So eliminating the circumstances that since you are not able to judge now, you should refrain from doing that audit. Next, applying safeguards where applicable and capable of being applied to reduce the threats to an acceptable level. There may be circumstances when you can apply some safeguards. Safeguards means you can have a confidential, say apart from bank audit, you can take any audit, you're going to have an opinion with from a third party or a lawyer. You can get an opinion by signing a non-disclosure agreements. And all these things I'm saying it is, I'm not giving an opinion. You should, as a professional accountant, you should apply other circumstances, what is the amount of threat and how you're going to mitigate the threat and what is the safeguards you're going to way in it addressing the threat. And if these two things are not possible, eliminating the circumstances or applying safeguards is not possible, declining or ending the specific professional activity. Say you're taking a risky audit and without getting a professional opinion or a legal opinion, or the circumstances is such a way that you cannot form an opinion without sharing the confidential information. So many things have been there. If it is unable for you to mitigate the threat or you are not able to address the threat, it is of you to decline that entire professional activity or ending the specific professional activity. This way you have to address the threat. The professional accountant. So remember the entire code of ethics they call as PA, professional accountant, they call it as a PA, shall form an overall conclusion about whether action on the accountant takes or intend to take to address the threat created will eliminate those threats to reduce them to an acceptable. This is what we have been talking about. We have to see to that it has been eliminated or it has been reduced to an acceptable level. And also see to that when we form an overall opinion, what is the significant judgments made or conclusions were reached, and use the reasonable and informed third party test. You apply some third party test and see that whether the threat, the way you have addressed the threat is not affecting your judgment or conclusions. This is what absolute necessity when the threat is being found out and you have evaluated and you are going to address the threat. So this is a continuous process, as I said. Identify, evaluate, address. So exercise professional judgment in identifying, remain alert for new incoming changes and facts and circumstances when evaluating, use reasonable informed third party test to see to the addressing the threat. You see in a different angle whether the threat has been addressed and that threat doesn't have any impact on your professional judgment. So remember this cycle, this has to be a continuous cycle whenever you deal with threats. Threats again, it is anything which shakes the fundamental principles. Anything which is going to affect the fundamental principles, it is a threat. So 5 fundamental principles, it has to be kept intact. All the pillars should be kept intact. And any small vibrations is a threat. And whenever there is a vibration or a threat, it is a continuous process. And continuously identify and evaluate and address to make sure that the pillars strong and stay strong. So now coming to the code of ethics, how it has been arranged. So the first part we said saw that professional is a framework 100 rule. With respect to service, code starts from 200 to 270. Public practice 300 to 360. And the independent standards, the audit standards 400 to 800, non-audit 900 to 990. This is how the entire code is being designed. When it comes to conceptual framework of persons in service, all these sections say conceptual framework, applying the conceptual framework applies to a member in service. Then conflict of interest, whether there is a conflict of interest, preparation and presentation of information, acting with sufficient expertise, again professional knowledge, expertise, professional due care other exercising, financial interest compensation and incentive linked to financial reporting and decision making. When it go in depth in each and every point and study. So, for example, I take this financial interest compensation and incentive linked to financial reporting and decision making. So, for example, a person, a CFO sitting in a company, he is a person in charge of the entire financial operation of the company, and he is also a decision making authority. If is taking any incentive from third party, or if he is taking any financial interest or any other interest from a third party, third person, for making a decision in the company, then there is a threat for his independence. So then you have to find out what is the consequences, what is the threat, and how he has to address that. The next point you can say inducement, including gift and hospitality. If he receives any gift from the third party, then you have to see whether there is a threat involved. All these points, when you read that, it doesn't mean it is abstaining from you from doing certain things. It doesn't abstain. It doesn't say you should not do this. It says that you should evaluate what is the threat, what is the underlying threat on the particular action of you, which shakes the fundamental principles. If it is not at an acceptable level, say a person, CFO, taking a small gift when he goes to some other company for some collaboration agreement or something, that doesn't shakes heavily the fundamental principles. And I'm just giving a lucid example. Don't take this as acting. It is as the case basis you have to evaluate. So that taking of gift, whether it is shaking your fundamental principles, and if it is compromising on the fundamental principles, then there is a threat which has to be addressed. How we are going to address declining the gift, or seeing that you are not presenting in that particular assignment of going and finalizing the deal. So all these things a professional accountant in service to be kept in mind. Non-compliance with laws and regulations in case of employment with listed companies. This is no law. This is one small deviation with respect to IESB, International Ethical Standard Board's recommendation, what we are taking up. We have made this non-clear applicable only for persons in service with respect to employment with listed entities. So this no class is being deferred, as such it has not been implemented. So remember, when it gets implemented, all persons who are employed in listed entities, this no clause will apply. This no clause is one section. We will talk about it elaborately later. This is one thing which is going to impact professional accountants, which so far is not having any impact on the professional practice or professional employment. Pressures to breach the fundamental basis. So you see that if there is any pressure to breach, as a CFO, as a professional CFO, the management or the shareholders is putting you some pressure in deviating the fundamental principles, so that your independence is getting shattered. Then you should see to that you address the threat in a proper way, so that the threat is getting eliminated or reduced to an acceptable manner. So when it comes to public practice, again, the same arrangement of sections. Two things are added with respect to public practice. One thing is professional appointment, second opinions, fees, and other type of remuneration, what you can have it. Custody of client assets. All other things are in line with public service, what is applicable to service, it also applies to members in practice. So professional appointments, what appointments a member can accept? What is a professional appointment? How that appointment has to be accepted? Everybody knows that before accepting an appointment from which has been done by a previous auditor, you should get in concurrence. This is normally called as a no objection. There is not a which it doesn't prescribe or the regulations or the code doesn't say it is a no objection. It is a healthy way of communicating to the previous professional accountant about what all the consequences, what are all the factors that may affect you in taking up the assignment. So you're evaluating what are all the threats that you have from the previous professional accountant so that you can mitigate the threat. And there may be some reasons where some regulatory reasons say, our regulation says, and there is a fees due to the previous auditor, you should not help. So that is also one kind of threat. Before accepting the professional assignment, communicating with the previous professional accountant, to see to that kind of threat, that is any fees due to the previous auditor, it is getting eliminated. So this way, you should see to that the threats are getting eliminated or threats are getting minimized to the acceptable level. Second opinions, this we have also discussed earlier also. So when we want an opinion from third party, opinion from fellow professional, we have to see what are the way we can get. And when we give a second opinion, what kind of responsibility we take and what kind of responsibility other person infuses upon you on getting that second opinion. All these things has to be factored when you are doing a second, you are giving a second, getting a second opinion. Fees and other types of remuneration. This is also a class that is deferred. There is a cap in the percentage of fees from a single client. This is also deferred. This is some 15%, more than 15%. If you are having a client from whom fees is being receiving more than 15%, then there is a threat. So that client being our largest earnings from that particular client, there is an inherent threat that you may lose your independence while discharging your duty. So if something happens, the client may go. That kind of feeling, if you have, there is a compromise on your independence. So you should see to that compromise on independence is not affected due to that. That is why they are fixing the cap of 15%. And even that, if it is deferred, and the other frameworks, so there is always a threat. So there is a shake in independence. So that independence, you have to restore that independence. So you have to see to that if there is any sort of some lack of clarity, or you have some second thought in executing that professional work, where the fees is the most fees comes from the particular client, your professional judgment will get impact. Then you should take duly that is being eliminated or that is being reduced to a considerable level. And the client assets, custody of client's asset, this is a thing which you know, whatever the client gives you. So there is a specific case regulation that when you have client's money for tax payment or other things, regulation says you have to keep it in a separate bank account and it has to be paid from that bank account. You are not utilizing that money for any other purpose. So likewise, not only monetary assets, you have clients' books of accounts and other things. You should see to that as a custodian, as a trusteeship of that particular assets, you take due care in having that asset with you. And conflict of interest. When we talk about conflict of interest, you should not compromise your professional judgment. So if there is a conflict of interest, we have to identify it before engagement. So that is why in bank audit they are asking you that whether you have any done any audit or you have any loan with the bank. That is the reason why you should not have a loan with the client more than a specified amount. All these things are conflict of interest. Before engagement itself, it should be identified, and after engagement, the changes in circumstances have resulted in a conflict of interest that has to be taken care. Disclosure and consent. When you have a conflict of interest, it should be disclosed, and you have to give a consent, and on that there is a particular conflict of interest as well. And confidentiality. Also, we have to see that whether there is any conflict of interest and confidentiality. Documentation. While documentation, you should not have any conflict of interest. What is the conflict of interest? What you document should not create some conflict upon the person from whom you
Anand
draft.
sir,
Yeah,
your
tell me.
voice is very low. People are not able to hear you. They are giving commands. Okay.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
So when it comes to documentation, what gives the conflict of interest? There may be some documents which are secrets. Say you have a loan document which is a confidential document, which you are not supposed to take it in as a copy of audit evidence. Then there is a conflict of interest. You can document very well. This is a particular document as an evidence we are verified, and since it is a confidential document, we are not collected that evidence. That kind of audit notes you can write it. But when it comes to documentation part, which is documents which are not supposed to be shared upon to other persons, there is a conflict of interest. So that you have to see and evaluate the conflict of interest at various levels. Now when it comes to professional appointment, client and engagement acceptance. Whenever you accept a client, you create an engagement acceptance letter or engagement letter so that yourself and the client have a clear understanding on what basis the engagement is being accepted. And KYC, this is one important aspect which you should take care. If you have not taken KYC, kindly take KYC on a regular basis with all your clients. And being this bank audit session, and all professional firms which are going to conduct a bank audit, the compulsory peer review is going to come in next couple of years. So all KYC documents, when the peer review comes, they will not only see to that bank audit assignment, they will also peer review the other audit assignments. So this is the first year. After 3 years, the peer review has to come. Means this is the first year in which the documents has to be created. So remember that whatever the assignments you are doing from the day 1 of 1st April 22, remember that all the KYCs are obtained. KYCs are obtained and it is latest. See to that it is latest. And for company audit assignments, always we do a DIR KYC so that there will be a updated KYC, and also see to that the KYC is updated, because most of the clients, they update the Aadhaar, update the PAN, or update their address, and they do not update the proper documents with you. They would have scanned the previous Aadhaar card, they will send that Aadhaar card. They will have a different PAN card which has been the older address, they will send those things. Kindly see to that the new one or updated documents are being kept as a KYC. So this applies to all the partners when it comes to a partnership, and all the directors have to get a KYC, and all shareholders, major shareholders, if they have an influence and if they have a different thing, try to get a KYC, latest one. changes in professional appointment, we see that with respect to previous auditor communicating, and the client and engagement continues. Whenever the you engagement is continuing one, try to get a continuous engagement letter on a regular basis, year-on-year basis. Your work is a different year-on-year basis, so get a fresh engagement letter on year-on-year basis, and work of an expert. This is also elaborately dealt. So kindly go and read the code of ethics with respect to work of an expert. What kind of expert work you can get, what kind of assurance you can get, in what way it will safeguard you when with respect to professional assignment, and whether a particular professional judgment or professional say opinion you obtained from an expert, in how much reliance you can make on the work of an expert. If you make a reliance, in what way it is going to affect your professional work. All these things are being elaborated. You have to see to that when to get an expert opinion and what way the expert opinion has to be evaluated. Second opinion. This is, of course, nowadays we come across different scenarios where now the clients are getting second opinion from professional accountants. Say my client used to get an opinion from Sriram sir, or like that. They are getting different opinions, so that whether the, what the professional judgment we make, whether it is beneficial to them or it is appropriate for them, they are evaluating by getting a second opinion. So whenever there is a seeking of a second opinion, there is they will not permit the accountant to communicate with the existing or predecessor accountant. And in such a case, the accountant should determine that the accountant will provide the second opinion sought. So my client will come to Sriram sir and ask, sir, this is what my auditor is saying. What way it is you suggest. Before Sriram sir giving an opinion or because he cannot communicate with me to see, because the client may object that our client clearly said no, you should not communicate with them. And before giving the opinion, Sriram sir should evaluate whether such a kind of opinion can be given in the circumstances. It is not bars. The client cannot go to the another auditor, or she cannot keep us, cannot seek a second. That is no bar on that. And similarly, the second, the auditor or the professional accountant cannot give a second opinion. There is no bar like that. We should only evaluate whether he can give a second opinion in the particular circumstances with the particular client. So that there is no threat, and when it comes to communicating with the existing or predecessor accountant. This is one clause which is being deferred. So when its total fees should not be more than 15%, and there is some relaxation that such fees does not exceed 5 lakhs. So if that fees doesn't exceed 5 lakhs, that doesn't apply. And in case of government companies, public undertakings, all these things, no, there is a relaxation. And there is already existing provision which says 40%, more than 40% from the single client. It is there in the Part B of Code of Ethics 2009, which is there already. So now they are changing it to 50%. That is now as far as of today it is being deferred, and we'll see whether it is notified or not. And Pechi, can you just give an introduction on NOCLAR so that we will proceed with NOCLAR in an elaborate manner? Pechi?
Yes, sir.
Just give a brief introduction of what is NOCLAR.
This is like when we are doing audit, we need to make sure that all other statutory compliance have been complied, and we need to inform to the NOCLAR if there is any law has not been followed and it has a financial impact. If it has a financial impact only, then we need to report to the no class. And this is actually this class has been deferred, and we don't know from when it is going to be applicable. In case if it is going to be notified, then this is applicable to the listed entities first, and then for only audit assignments. In case of the other things for the employees of the listed entities, this is going to, who are all in service, this is going to be for the employees of listed entities. Then when coming here, this nuclear, this is other salient features are this very specifically says that you can, the chartered accountant who are in practice can address nuclear only when and if he encounters anything during the course of providing professional service. Just like that, I'm not even.
Yeah, to elaborate that point, I'll give you one live example. We are conducting a tax audit. So while conducting the tax audit, the income tax provisions asks us to provide provident fund payments, whether it is paid in due date as per the Act. The Income Tax Act doesn't have any jurisdiction to say whether the PF Act is complied or not. They are asking whether if it is paid in due date or not. So the Act says if it is not paid in due date, they are disallowing it. That is only the purpose of computing the income, whether the allowability of the particular expenditure is not of that. It is this Income Tax Act provides. But when it no clerk comes into it comes into picture, then we have to see that whether the Provident Fund Act as such is complied or not. So when we audit, we have to see that what are all the applicable laws. So this applicability of PF is definitely we will encounter in the course of providing the professional service. So when it comes to some environmental related issue, say they have become auditee has breached some environmental fact, or there is some environmental issue they have breached. During the course of our audit, if it is not coming to our purview or doesn't have any financial impact, which is coming through, say they have not paid any penalties, they have not done some work with respect to our financial transaction with respect to that environment thing, we have not come across during our professional service, then the professional accountant doesn't require to address that no clerk. But when it comes to PF, definitely we will be encountering the same in the course of our providing of professional service. So this is one example we should think about in evaluating what will be the threats we will be facing when the snow cloud comes into the picture.
One point to be added on this snow cloud is we might think that if it is a listed company only, we are not going to, but since this is a bank audit season, the banks are whether it is going to be statutory audit or concurrent audit, they are into the public entity. So this no cloud is applicable for each one of us since we are going to do the bank audit. So to put it in a very simple word, that any law is violated and also it has any financial impact, then depending upon the veracity, either we have to report it to the board or in our audit report. That is very, very important. Thank you. And you can take it forward.
Again, with respect to independent standards, audit and review agreements, these are all specific things which I am not covering as such because elaborating this thing will take we need a bigger session to address this. And I have just only shown you only the topics of the particular sections. Each and every section has to be deliberated deeply. The independent standard audit and review engagements range with 400 to 800, which has again applying the conceptual framework, the fees, compensation and evaluating policies, gifts and hospitality, actual or threatened litigation, financial interest, loans and guarantees, business relationship, family and personal relationship, recent service with an audit client. So think about topics, how broadly they are covering each and every aspects. And servicing as a director or officer on audit client, employment with an audit client, temporary personal assignment, long association of personnel. So when it comes to long association, this is most of us small medium practitioner will have that long association. We have to see to that long association doesn't affect our opinion, audit opinion. And audit rotation. This is Pechi will elaborate this audit rotation. And when it comes to audit rotation, now Pechi will
Yes,
what all the
yes, Anand, I will take it forward. This firm rotation, when compared to the earlier years, in new code of ethics, there was 7 years. Once they have to, there is no change. It's same thing. But for cooling off period, no, they have divided into different things that 5 years cooling off for engagement partner and 3 years cooling off period for engagement quality review partner. And any key audit partners are there, 2 years once cooling off is recommended. And when coming here, there are a lot of prohibition on consulting with engagement team related to technical for any transaction events they have made. If you see as a whole, where they are trying to put it in this restriction on partner rotation, everything, they just want to keep the independence. See, no law can define the independence, but here, at least by this rotation, they are trying themselves to keep this independence. And when coming to the management responsibility, they are telling that the firm shall not assume a management responsibility for an audit time. Why? Because with the same auditor is doing a management responsibility, and also the same audit is being carried out. Where I do the internal audit and I was the statutory auditor, where that work will be always a questionable, and there is no independence. Even though I am independent in mind, there is no independence in appearance. So they want to change the thing. When coming to the word processing service, are preparing administrative or statutory forms for the client approval, and a lot of advisory things, the statutory filing, everything. GST registration, GST filing, and filing TDS returns, everything. If the firm is doing, and they are going to do the same audit work, means how it is going to be worked out. That's what they are trying to say. And so when coming to the non-assurance service also, they have clearly given a few things that they partially prohibited a lot of the services, that valuation service, the system services like that. And while you are doing audit, you should not do the bookkeeping services for the same client. Like this, the clear guidance on types of recruiting services have been prohibited in the new code of ethics. And also undertaking reference checks of prospective candidates. These things are, we need to keep it in mind. When coming to the tax services to the audit clients, earlier code of ethics, there was not seen any threats for independence is there, but now here the new code of ethics was saying that, see, for taxation matter only, there was a lot of self-review or advocacy threats are there, so we need to be very careful. What they are trying to say, while you are preparing tax return, there is usually no threat, but you prepare the tax calculation and you prepare the entries for the things, and subsequently you do the audit, that create a self-review threat. So we need to be very careful that when we are doing tax advisory services, it should not affect our self-review things, and we need to take appropriate safeguards to adopt that. My audit team is totally separate and my tax team is totally separate, and we have a review process. We have the review of audit work, and we are providing the tax service separately. Like that, we need to give a very strong bifurcation between our tax works and audit works. Then coming to the tax services involving valuation. Of course, now the valuation is being done by only who passed the valuation exam. So this is not going to make a lot of things in coming days. And this is the one of the very important place where when we are assisting in tax disputes, we need to be very careful to safeguard ourselves that see for because it not only involves the technical things, it also involves some sort of financial things are there. So we need to express our opinion and we need to be very careful while dealing with the things. It should not affect our self-advocacy, self-review threats and advocacy threats. And then coming to in the what is oh. When coming here, the independent standards that as well said by Anand, I just want to point out few things that when we are accepting gift or hospitality from the client, we need to be very careful that it will create a self threats because getting a one sweet box for Deepavali is not going to make any big threats, but if he's giving you a travel vouchers for to travel somewhere and to enjoy with the entire family, then of course there would be a hidden agenda behind that. They may influence our judgment when we are doing the audit. So even the client is having a hotel, when we go and have the hospitality, of course, they corrupt our mind and they try to take, sir, you came with your family, you had a very good function here. We all adjusted, no, we have not raised the bill. We will tell that, sir, I'm ready to pay the bill, but so, sir, it's all right, sir, this is our family function, let it be. So when we are having those things, we should be very careful. And I just want to tell you one thing, peer review. This peer review is step by step coming for everyone, and when it comes, it's going to be on 1/4/2025. This peer review is going to applicable for everyone because without peer review, we are not supposed to take bank audits. When I was telling this to my friend, he was saying, no, it won't come like that. Already it is came, it is notified by year-wise, they have notified, and for bank audits, from 1/4/2025, if you are having the peer review only, then we can go for the thing. So I was surprised, and always our family, Chengalpattu family is having a lot of peer reviewers within us. So I have see what are the documents I'm supposed to see. Are they going to see every account? Then they said that now this is for private limited company, and for tax audit cases, major things we will cover up. So make a checklist, be sure that you, and then my question, do you see in paper or you will see it in offline? We can have a soft copy. No, we can see it in soft copies. Then my always we have a worry that peer review means are they going to check our work? Not at all. They are not going to see our working paper. They are just going to see that whether we are having our working paper or not. This is a very important thing which everyone should know, that they are not, when we are coming to, as a very small practitioner, budding thing, I'm really afraid that, are you going to come and check my work? They said, no, we are not going to check what you have done. We are going to see whether there is a proper engagement letter is there, whether you have received the fees, whether you have an audit plan, and whether you have executed the plan and you have the work audit papers for that. So, so when we are adapting to this, of course, we can take care of any threats. There will not be any self-review threat, or when we have a regular engagement letter signed, it should not obtain for any number of years. We should every year It's a very simple procedure, but we need to follow that. And
A small intervention, Pechi.
yes, sir.
Probably I would say this peer review alone may be taken up as another bunch of discussion, maybe with 2 hours for a CPE meeting in our general committee.
Definitely.
Because
As me
most
and
of the
Anand
people,
was discussing, sir,
see, as a,
peer review mechanism needs to be discussed
yeah,
the same way.
not only,
We
not
are
what
discussing
happened,
on code of ethics, not only code of ethics, we need to understand the mechanism, how it is
exactly,
worked out.
exactly. That is what, because
That needs a very elaborate discussion.
because yeah, that is what, at least another separate
We should
session.
know when notice comes, how we have to respond. We
Exactly.
should know how I am going to approach before the things.
Because
Am I
otherwise, what
supposed
is
to appoint
happening?
somebody, or I can
Yeah.
myself go and represent. All sort of questions are.
Many of the small practitioners may not be aware, and their documentation may not be in place. That is where
So
people
we
are
can
getting into
prepare.
trouble.
We in our family we have many
Yes.
peer review reviewers. So
Yeah, from both sides, peer reviewer side as well as the reviewed person side. Maybe
yes, we can.
both can have a session that will really enlighten all the people. Otherwise, like people are,
Definitely,
they do not know
definitely.
what is happening. Yeah,
Anand will note down that point, and already we have taken that.
yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
From this standard, Anand will take it. I think this is a repeated slide. I think so.
All most of the points which it is being covered, it applies to a professional accountant in service, in practice. In practice, with respect to assurance services, with respect to non-assurance services, though they are divided and bifurcated in different categories so that they can give a better example. That is how what the entire code has been designed. So when it comes to this mechanism of self-correction, that is what previously also I said, the entire code is like that. It says that there is a fundamental principles. You should see that fundamental principles are not being tampered with. And if you see that there is a tampering, there is a threat. And if you identify a threat, how you are going to mitigate the threat, what are all the things you are going to see, how going to evaluate the threat, and what are the other factors which is going to be seen when a threat comes, and how the entire threat is going to impact your independence, and how it is going to affect your professional judgment. All these things are been said in this code. It is as a self-correction mechanism. So it is for us as a professional accountant to see to that the entire code of ethics is seen in a very broader framework, a broader, say, a eagle's eye, a bird's eye view. That is what we have to see. So a small thing, whether it will affect me or not, we should not take a judgment that this is very small or minuscule, it will not affect me. We should not see it in that manner. If you come across anything which is going to slightly scratch the fundamental principles, we should immediately document that this is what the threat which has been identified, and this is how I am mitigating the threat, or this is the level of breach it has been happening, and this level doesn't affect my independence or professional judgment. That is the way you should document in your working papers. So that is what it is required. So whatever we keep in mind is not sufficient enough. We adequately document the same thing. That is what required. Documentation may be physical or electronic, whatever form, but it should be in a manner that whenever another auditor comes and reviews it, he is able to see that whatever the professional judgments you have made upon that. That is how a document should be. And when it comes to a firm which has been there, and it should be take necessary steps to see that end, suspend or eliminate the interest that created the breach, and consider applicable legal or regulatory requirements and apply them. And say, for example, one particular breach has happened, and that is having an impact. As a firm, they should see to that what is it is going to affect the firm as a whole. What kind of legal or a regulatory requirement that will apply on the firm. Now, since I've taken up the firm, kindly remember that regulations have been coming out that to punish the firm also. Previously, it was said that only the partner in charge will be punished for any professional misconduct, but the regulatory mechanism is getting changed to punish the firm also. So there are changes is happening. Changes is continuous. It is happening in a continuous manner. So we should be keep in mind all these changes and see to that whether all the threats are being eliminated. So as a caution of seriousness, I'm putting these points, these bullet points to remember. So be cautious when signing, double check before signing. So before signing anything, have a look and see to that whether what you sign, whether you can sign it, whether you have documented before signing, whether the opinion you are forming is based on the professional works what you have conducted, or the opinion is in line with the findings what during the audit. That has to be taken care.
To add one more point, to sum up the entire code, the one mantra what said by Anand is self-conscious. We need to be very conscious while we are signing. Thanks to our ICI that we have been a role model for the entire global, that we are the first one to introduce the UDN for from our side, and it is more than 3 crores of UDN has been generated so far. And earlier we used to get fear, but now we are happy that whenever we are signing, our sign has been endorsed by UDN. So we feel very secure things that if you see most of the disciplinary cases are based on only an emotional attachment with client, they have done that, which leads to the CAs to stand before that community. It's not about they done it for something else. What to do last minute, how you want me to put engagement letter for filing an individual return. I just filed the return based on the confirmation which is given in the form. We don't have the recorded things to showcase that they have given the permission. Even there are cases that using the DSC, which was explained by Arbukam in the last week, Anuraj in the last week, thing that even to use the DSC, we need to get declaration. And it's not about getting declaration. For one time, they used to say that, see, this your DSC has been used for the IT return filing, used for the ROC filing. So this is the kind of just a one second mail, the same format, we can keep it and we can send it. That documentation, because documentation makes it more perfect to safeguard ourselves from law, and also we can have a peaceful sleep. Ultimately, we are working in a very, very sensitive area where we need to keep integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, professional behavior, as discussed by Anand. Using the abusive language itself causing some man to be a professional misconduct. That was a new thing to know for everyone. So, because that will come under the disrepute to the profession. Disrepute to the profession is a very, very big thing that we can't fit any one thing into that. It's know what to say. We are under the limelight, so we need to be very careful. Any questions, we are happy to take it up. From the beginning, we have been asking for that. Any questions? Anand, we can take the questions, right? We have time for 15 minutes.
Okay. Hi, Anand and ma'am. Thanks. This is Ramesh.
Yes.
I have a question on the rates that you had mentioned, right? For example, it has been reduced from 40 to 15%. Okay. What is the implication if the fees from a particular client or his associates goes beyond 15%? Other than the disclosure, does it have any legal consequence?
No, as such, there is the entire code is based on it. The lesson says that you should not have. You should see that there is a two-part. Also we discussed. There is two part. One is the code part, and the other is the law part. Whether there is any change in the law prohibiting the getting fees more than 50% from a single client is there or not, we have to see. Whether the law there is an amendment, or when we are going to accept the code. When it is law is not really silent about that, when I'm going to apply the code, you have to see to that what is the amount of self-interest threat that you are getting exposed due to that particular client. If the exposure of that self-interest threat is high, and that client is, your judgment is going to be based on that self-interest threat. Say I may have a insecurity that if the client goes away, my bulk chunk of fees is going to go, getting eroded in the coming years. If I have that particular threat, I may do a favor, I may do a give an opinion in a particular client. If that is going to be the circumstances, then I should avoid it, or I should see to that I am mitigating the threat in whatever possible ways. This is the thing you have to address it. There is no specific, this is what you have to do. If it is law has changed, if it is, you cannot have a 15%, then the advice that is better you avoid that particular assignment, or you should see to that fees is getting reduced less than 15%. And also you can see there is a ceiling which has been, even if it is not implemented, this doesn't apply up to 5 lakhs rupees. So more than 5 lakhs fees, if you are getting from the client, which is more than 15% of your entire turnover, then only this particular thing is being getting up. A sufficient safeguard is being made for a small medium practitioner. So as a small and medium practitioner, need not worry, but if it comes to a bigger, larger chunk, say if you are getting a 20 lakhs fees, a bigger firm from a particular client, and it is more than 15%, then definitely you have to see to that how we are going to address that particular self-interest threat.
Sir,
is it clear, Ramesh?
Sir, there
Yes.
is one question they were been asking on advocacy threats. So shall I?
Yes, proceed.
1 minute. Sir, advocacy threat will come when we are representing before the tax department on behalf of our clients. That time this advocacy threat is arising. That is when we are going for representation. No, that time there would be a lot of things would be happening. Not only the technical things, the other things might create assistance in tax dispute. We assist them for tax dispute. No, that time on behalf of our client, when we do the acting as an advocate for our client, at that time these threats will come. That we need to be very careful that this we should not bounce our hands for the sake of safeguarding.
Yeah, Pechi, I will just give one small example.
Yes, sir.
So we are presenting ourselves before the income tax authorities, and we are saying that and an ad hoc disallowance we are agreeing for as a personal expenditure, say 15% or 20%. I'm ad hoc, I'm accepting that. When it comes to signing the financial statements, and particularly I have not mentioned whether it is an expenditure which has been proper or not. I have signed the financial statements saying that the entire thing is for the expenses are for the business purposes and signing the financials. But when it comes to representations to have a smooth conduct of the entire assessment procedures, I'm offering 15% means there is an advocacy threat I am imposing as a professional accountant by giving an opinion on the financial statements, where I suppose there is the entire expenses are for the purpose of the business I am certified, and there is a true and fair on the financial statements. When it comes to presentation before the income tax authorities, I am myself declaring that 15% of expenses is towards personal nature, which is no way connected with the business of the entity, and asking the assessing officer to disallow it. There comes this kind of advocacy threats.
It is a contradiction of what we have earlier told. It is a contradiction of what we have earlier told, what we have already signed.
Yes.
Sir, to put it in a very simple word, when we are doing lobbying in favor of legislation for the client, we need to be very careful. And you can see some other example also there. When CA is asked to promote client security as part of IPO, the CA should not make false or misleading statement presenting judgment as fact that will create advocacy threats. We need to do our job. We should not put ourselves into their place, and we should not take because this advocacy threats create only when CA takes the role representing a client or pushing the client's interest in another context. So
Both.
we are representing, we need to be very, very careful because the most of the things from the beginning I was telling that this threat will come when we are doing a lobbying in favor of legislation for our clients. So when we are doing that, we need to be very careful and take the steps in a very documented way to safeguard ourselves because most of the things happen there.
If I am Sundarajan here,
Yes, sir.
if Pechi madam and Anand sir can give me 2 minutes of your liberty to
Take
speak.
your own time, sir.
No. If you have to give me the liberty to speak, because this particular item which I was hearing was I have my own reservations, which I wanted to ensure that the members are also clear on this particular matter. That's why I raised this point. So the advocacy threat does not come on these matters. I'm making it very, very point blankly clear. Advocacy threat, see, basically, let us understand for a moment, all the threats is in respect of attest functions. So when it is going to an attest function, it is basically relating to a futuristic concept. So the advocacy threat comes when sorry if I'm interfering in the speaker's time. I'm just explaining because this is an important item which I wanted to explain. Don't mind.
No, sir, you can continue, sir.
Okay. So the advocacy threat comes only when I give an opinion on the same financial statements, I go and certify. I give an opinion. For example, I'm just taking an example like Anand was telling. I give an opinion saying that you are eligible for this deduction, you are eligible for this exemption. So at that situation, I myself go and certify the financial statement at the end of the year. I will be under a compulsion to say, because I have given an opinion, I have to advocate it when I have to sign the financial statement. That is called as advocacy threat. The threat which you are mentioning about arguing before the assessing officer does not come at all. It is not at all. That comes as disclosure requirement. That is, you are given the power. See, you have signed, when you signed the financial statements, you have signed that 100 rupees is the expenditure, which you have correctly signed. But during the hearing, you give an option saying that 15% I will dissolve as personal expenditure for ensuring that there is a cordial assessment which is happening. That's a different issue altogether. That you do it with the power and power given by the client. That does not have anything related to advocacy threat. It is wrongly understood. I don't say wrongly understood. It was probably misunderstood that advocacy means it is argument's sake. That is not the issue. What I have given an opinion in the initial stages, and subsequently when I am going to sign the same financial statements or give the attest function, that situation, it not only need not be an audit, basically it can be a certificate also. For example, there's an NGO. When the NGO gets to contributions and spends on a specific project, you say that this is eligible, there's an eligible item, eligible project. But ultimately, when according to the government's guidelines, when they give a grant, they give certain parameters. Only according to this, you have to spend. You give a utilization certificate, then you will be under a compulsion to supplement what you have already given as an opinion. This is advocacy threat and not the advocacy threat which has been mentioned.
The advocacy threat is the one when am I at a risk of promoting my client's employee's position?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What I have told in advance.
In spite of controversies over the sort of bribery issues in order to promote the interests of the company, when some threats are coming, that is advocacy. That's what me and Anand sir was trying to explain.
No. Basically, advocacy.
Might differ, but the fact is a fact, right? The fact is when I'm promoting my client, the position, what I'm taking, if it is going to be inappropriate, that is advocacy threat. That is what we both try to say. We accept your point, but everyone has their
No. You don't have to accept my point. You don't have to accept my point. You can go through the examples. This is the item which has been given clearly in the advocacy threat examples also. And institute guidance also is very good because advocacy threat is explained in this manner only, not by way of presentation before the authorities. That has to be totally removed from the minds of the people. That is why I'm mentioning that and nothing else more than that. Similarly,
we got it from the committee itself, sir. We got clarified. Whatever the points me and Anand sir was discussing was very well discussed and taken from a act only. not just like that, we are presenting our views.
I knew, Pechi, you will be telling this, but with due respects to what you say,
No, no,
I'm
no,
making
no.
it very,
We
very
do
point blank
respect
clear.
you, sir.
I know you will tell that, but I'm point blank clear
The point is
because this advocacy threat is coming on case to the day-to-day case basis on the code of conduct cases.
yes,
Okay.
sir, yes.
And unfortunately, the argument which you are placing is not agreed there because there advocacy threat comes only. How did you sign this? You are restricting yourself itself. Why are you defending yourself? The opinion which has been given. This is how it is happening. On the basis of the practice side, I'm making it very, very clear. This is what is advocacy threat. If you say that it has been there, please give me the what you call the theory portion which you are depending upon that.
Yes, sir.
On the basis we can discuss. There's no problem at all. We can discuss. I want this group wanted to be apprised of this, and there are a couple of other items also which is not very. This is a serious one. That's why it came into the picture. Thank you very much. Sorry for disturbance. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay,
Thanks,
it's a
Anand.
pleasure to
Thanks.
talk to you,
No
sir.
problem.
Always
Differing views are always welcome.
No, thanks.
So,
Thanks for correcting
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Thanks
Yeah,
for.
that is
for
what.
correcting
One
us.
second.
We are
One second.
Differing views are always welcome, and all the people are entitled to hear two different views. So there is nothing wrong in that. So let the people think over, because when we are listening to different views, maybe people will really now go into the topic rather than taking it as a one-sided topic. Let us.
Yes.
People will really go into this and then look
very
into that.
nice, sir. We are happy to hear from you.
Yeah, that is what. Yes.
Any questions? No other questions. We can conclude, Anand sir. It is very well within time which is allotted to us.
It's up to the ethics committee chairman to decide on to take up further questions or to conclude the sessions. Over to Sriram sir, you can.
Yeah, we can close it if there are not much of questions. There are one or two questions
Thank
which
you
were
for
there
taking
earlier.
the
Yeah, we can close it. I think we are also reaching the time because we need to respect everyone's time.
Thank you.
And so I would say thank you to Anand and Pechi for a wonderful session for the last 2 hours. We have seen right from the beginning how it is structured, how the part A, part B, class 1, class 2, this schedules, divisions. So, and also mainly explaining the terms of which we are learning today. Now the threat, advocacy, all this kind of slightly different terminology we need to learn from the earlier our code of conduct. Because the earlier code of conduct looked like very simple one. You don't do this, you don't go and advertise, you don't do this, you don't do that, like that. But now I think it's in a slightly in a different, broader way in which it is now defined. And we need to still get into that with our minds being more focused. But in a very overall way, I would like to say on perusing some of the things and understanding the topic to a certain extent, which we see a lot of cases which are normally come in the terms of people are not applying their mind, people are signing balance sheet without due to compulsion of the client, they sign a lot of things. They sign without even seeing the balance sheets. There are a lot of disciplinary cases which are falling in this case. And majority of the issues are falling in non-communicating with the earlier auditor. I think these are the two lot of issues are coming in this one. So the earlier auditor may not really be willing to help you because he is a little bit injured on that because he is removed or he is in some issue. But however, as a professional, we must respect the fellow professionals' feelings also. So there must be some amount of communication as given by the institute in a proper way should be done so that to eliminate all our getting captured in a later disciplinary proceeding areas. So I think people will slowly get into these topics in this coming year. So thank you for all the participants. There are 42 participants are there. And a wonderful session from Anand and Pechi. Thank you for all the organizers for organizing this meeting to go ahead very well. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam, நீங்க இது பண்ணிக்கலாம், க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிக்கலாம்.
I think Satya or somebody can close. Yeah, you are. Close பண்ணிக்கலாம் இல்லையா?
Recording stop.
Recording. Indu madam?
Recording stop.
I will YouTube live stop.